Well, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. It is not always that you have, I won't say opportunity, the chance, the good fortune indeed, of trapping down some personalities within the Nigerian polity. This afternoon, I have somebody whom the media had described as a progressive politician of the thinking class. My guest this afternoon is distinguished Senator Shehu Sani. Senator, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I know that you know what is happening in Nigeria currently. Demonstrations, as somebody says, is it the season of protests? But let us focus on the demonstration by End Sars Now team. Do you see this protest as first legitimate and then necessary?
Thank you for having me once again. Well, first and foremost, a protest is a popular revolt and dissent against a policy, a system, a program, or a government, as it is within this context. People in Nigeria today, particularly young people, have risen to challenge the established order. Specifically, the protest was triggered by police brutality that was perpetrated by a unit of the police force that is known as Sars. Sars has been an institution in terms of violations of fundamental rights. It has become so notorious and infamous in its activities, in its conduct, in its record, its stewardship, and in its history. In the last 3 decades, SARS has turned itself into a state within a state where they operate with impunity and without accountability. The people of this country, particularly the young people, because if you look at the age range of those that have been on the street today, are people mostly in their teens, in their 20s, and in their early 30s. It may be about SARS, the protest may have been triggered about SARS, but in a broader scale, it is about a complete rejection with the conduct and the activities of the political establishment. The nation in the last 20 to 30 years has been suffocated by a political class that put into primary line their own interests and that of their families. A nation that is so endowed with resources, with enough resources to ensure a comfortable life for most Nigerians, have simply turned into a nation of very few people and their own family. The level of poverty in this country, the disconnect between the government and the people who it's supposed to lead, the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the pervasive insecurity and unemployment in the country is enough to bring people out to the street. Now, the protests, the uprising is not simply about SARS. If you look at revolutions throughout the world, there must be an issue. In Tunisia, a young man called Mohamed Bouazizi was molested by a policeman, and he decided to burn himself, and that became a trigger that set the whole Arab countries ablaze in the name of what they call Arab Spring. In Sudan, it was about the rising price of bread and a discontent against the regime of al-Bashir became the spirit of the nation. Now, The young people who are on the street, not all of them, majority of them have not been actually molested by SARS. But they must have been, they may have been molested by the Nigerian police and SARS are almost the same thing. But they are out in the street because they have for a very long time been marginalized, ostracized, emasculated by the system. We have seen a political class that have increasingly grown arrogant in terms of their responsive and responsiveness to the society. We have seen a political class that have become rapacious and virulent against the people who is supposed to preside over. People thought that from 2015, there will be a new spirit, a new order, a new government that will conduct the affairs of the state differently. But we have seen promises upon promises made by the present administration has never been fulfilled. If you ask me what actually triggered the people out to the street, I cannot tell you it was SARS. But there must always be one reason, that seed of the revolution, and this is what it is.
Now,
for the first time,
yes.
For the first time in the history of Nigeria, people are out to the streets, challenging the order, daring those in the political offices, and even daring the security apparatus of state without fear, and without the opposition political parties leading them out, and without the trade unions leading them out, without anybody leading them, young people funding themselves, sponsoring themselves, feeding themselves, supporting themselves, coming out to the street to challenge the government. And I believe that this is a message to the people in the position of power, that you can be in authority and in power, but it is only when people decide to fold their arms and endure the suffering which you inflict upon them, then that you will continue to do what you do. But for now, young people are out in the street. I couldn't resist some few days ago to join them. Most of us who are in our 50s now thought that we may not have a time to protest again. But it appears that is one of my most joyful moments in the last 20 years, where people are out in the street, young people saying no and insisting, and they are not there representing any political interest or political grouping, and they are not members of any political party. They are simply Nigerians. And that is why I believe that our suffering, our hardship, our penury can come to an end once the people of this country decided that they must come out and fight this. And I believe that this is not the end, it is the beginning. That is why reforming the police is not the issue. The country needs to be reformed. Okay, you reform the police, and then you have people in the position of power, from governors to ministers to legislatures, traditional rulers. Everyone is for himself. The level of injustice and inequity in Nigeria has reached such an arrogant level that you are not just being enslaved by your leaders, but the children of your leaders are also spitting on you. Many of those people who have destroyed this country and who are destroying this country, who are plundering this country, you will see their children in social media insulting other persons. Other than that, you will see them during weddings and during naming ceremonies, displaying wealth as if they are fathers and parents are getting this money from the farm. This is a national resources which Nigerian leaders are dipping their hands in to build a fortune for themselves and their families. It has reached a point, thousands and millions of our young people who could not find food to eat, who could not have admission in schools, who couldn't have jobs after they have graduated. You see, you only need to go to Facebook and Twitter and see how the children of people in the position of power taking selfies in private jets, organizing birthday parties in Spain, in Paris, in Western world, in some of the most expensive places in Nigeria. Their children's photos graduating in Yale, in Princeton, in Columbia, in Cambridge, in Oxford. Your leaders who are feeding on your resources, going to those countries for matriculation or graduation of their children, and posting it for our steaming youths in their millions who could not even get admission in their state college of education. And when they get it, they don't have even money to pay. Now, do you think this will continue? No. A young man in Nigeria cannot apply for a job in a government agency and get it for a number of reasons. One is that if you come from a particular part of the country, you may be disadvantaged. If you don't have anyone in the position of office to give you a short note, you may be disadvantaged. If your name and your surname is not that one which is popular, recognized, or important in the spectrum of things in Nigeria, you are also disadvantaged. So do you think that for these thousands and millions of our young people roaming about in the street, things will continue this way? It will never. Just look at it. Go to Twitter. Any attempt by you to even question why should some people be displaying stupendous wealth in a nation where millions of people couldn't find even a breakfast to eat? You will see the son of such a thief will insult you, will even put up more photographs for you to see. You think that you will continue to live in peace? It's a question of time. A time will come in this country where it will be difficult for you to even ride your private car around. Not even sports car, not Ferrari, not Lamborghini, not Bugatti, not Rolls Royce. Even Peugeot, it will be difficult for you to ride in the street because people, young people, are getting more aware and conscious of their rights and are determined to stand up and fight it.